Welcome back to the Relaxing Ghost channel here on YouTube. Today we got another classic pay-per-view review. Today we got ECW's Barely Legal 1997. And this is of course a feature on the One Night Stand DVD set. Got a bonus disc here with the 2006 One Night Stand release. So Barely Legal 97, really cool. That was the first ever ECW pay-per-view. Of course, full of controversies and whatnot. It had some earlier plans which were derailed by some controversies that happened. Let's get into it. April 13th, 1997. The ECW Arena in Philadelphia, PA. On the DVD set here is 2 hours, 39 minutes. It probably went about 3 hours in reality. You know, I'm sure some things were edited out or just cut down. 7 matches on the night, including a 3-way dance to determine the number 1 contender for Raven's World Heavyweight title. Chris Candido was injured prior to this pay-per-view, and he wouldn't be appearing on the show. Torn biceps. You know, looking back at it, I wasn't a big ECW fan. You know, it sucks. I really do wish I kind of would have went and tried to look up some of this stuff as it happened, seeing as I was watching and, you know, middle of 98 into 99, and, you know, there was some good ECW stuff going on there. You know, I definitely heard of ECW. I just didn't have access to watch it. You know, and this is about just over a year before I would really start watching on a full-time basis. So to open up the show here, we got the Dudley Boyz, the World Tag Team Champions, versus the Eliminators. Really good match. You know, I'm a big fan of Saturn. This team here with Cronus was pretty fun. And that total elimination finish would just kick your damn head off. So the Eliminators would win the match to regain the titles here. You know, we know the Dudley Boyz would go on to be, 8-time ECW Tag Team Champions. So they're going to have a pretty good run for themselves. Next up here, we had RVD versus Lance Storm. This was a good match overall. You know, some really innovative spots. Of course, RVD is just, you know, he's just on fire. This is primetime RVD. I'm pretty sure there was some issues here where he wasn't even on the original card. And I think Candido was supposed to be in this spot, or Lance Storm, one of them. But RVD ends up pinning Lance Storm, 5-star frog splash. You know, RVD is just, he's one of my all-time favorites. You know, so glad I got that TV title DVD set. Next up, we had a 6-man tag team match where it was Taka Michinoku, Dick Togo, and Terry Boy versus Gran Hamada, Masato Yokoshiji, and the Great Sasuke. Very good match. You know, there's a lot of that stuff we see today with all the high-flying, fast-paced action. And one of them, I honestly can't really remember. I think it was Sasuke or Hamada, but they were wrestled in the Tokyo Dome the night before this, so there was some relationship here with Japan and ECW. You know, Paul Heyman definitely had his feet wet and all kinds of business here. Taka Michinoku recently started Michinoku Pro around this time as well. You know, we would see Taka pretty much in WWF right after this. He would become their light heavyweight champion. So that was a good match where Hamada, Masato, Yokoshiji, and the great Sasuke, they were the winners of that one. Next up, the TV title championship match. Hard-hitting style here. Not my favorite match of the night, but it was Pitbull versus Shane Douglas. And Pitbull 2, actually. So, RIP to Pitbull number 2. Shane Douglas. This one was slow, but it got into it towards the end of the match. Yeah, and after the match, we see Rick Rude making an appearance. I knew that was him right away. You know, just the way you could hear him talk, you're like, who is that? And then out comes someone else with the robe on and all that. And Rick Rude ends up attacking Douglas from behind. It was a setup. And I actually didn't even realize Rick Rude was in ECW. I'm sure I've heard it before, but, you know, actually seeing this was pretty cool. You know, we know he would be in DX, founding member. Sorry, I can't talk today. Founding member of DX, and he would be on Raw and Nitro on the same night, pretty much simultaneously. So Douglas would retain the TV title, and then the stuff after the match happened with Rick Rude. Oh, it was Brian Lee, I'm pretty sure. And you look at the size of Brian Lee at that time, and pretty sure that was him. And the size of Rick Rude, they were pretty much the same size. Next up, another insane grudge match. Tazz versus Sabu. Tazz was just on fire in these days. He was probably my favorite member of ECW. Just some of those suplexes he did were unreal. And he would just throw anybody around, from Bam Bam Bigelow to guys like Perry Saturn and Rey Mysterio. Just tossing them around like a piece of garbage. And this match with Sabu, this was intense. You know, of course, Sabu is, you know, doing his work with the chair and the flips and all that. And Tazz is getting down to business with all the suplexes. So, I definitely recommend you guys checking this match out. Tazz wins with the Tazz mission. But after the match, we have some more post-match shenanigans. And this time, RVD is back out here with Fonzie. And they put the boots to Tazz. It was all a ruse all along. RVD and Sabu are in it together. So initially, Fonzie was in there with Tazz. And, you know, they turned their back on Tazz. So I think this really helped Tazz going into the next year or so. Tazz would be one of their biggest baby faces. And, you know, arguably one of their top draws. You know, might not have reflected in the ratings or whatever. You know, if ECW had a rating scale, I'm not sure if it was on par with Nitros or Raws, but I'm wondering if Tazz was had any influence on their ratings. And then to start off the main event here, we had the three-way dance. It was Steven Richards, the Sandman, and Terry Funk, three-way dance. So what this is pretty much a triple threat elimination match with the winner facing Raven for the World Heavyweight title pretty much immediately. Terry Funk, of course, was like the leader of the ECW locker room. I gotta say, this main event really added up for the kind of undercard. You know, not saying this is a bad show or anything, but for me, I enjoyed the hell out of this main event. You know, with Funker and the Sandman at it. Sandman's entrance was always so epic here. And, You know, he was definitely in the zone here. You know, had a couple of cigarettes and a few beers before the match. And, you know, Tommy Dreamer on commentary for the main event here, co-main event. So, Tommy Dreamer said he wasn't going to get into this. You know, they're doing stuff with ladders, tables, chairs. ECW was doing this stuff before WWE ever thought about doing it. You know, sure, ECW had, or WWE had ladder matches, a couple of them, but they weren't just using them in, you know, regular matches. You know, ECW really started doing that. So, you know, we see Funker doing the old, you know, Three Stooges deal with the ladder on his head. Sandman and Funk quickly eliminating Steven Richards. This thing actually goes quite a bit of time. And then it comes down to Sandman and Terry Funk. Terry Funk is just getting the hell beat out of him. But he does pull out the victory here. And Raven's pretty much out there straight away. And Raven quickly gets onto the Funker, busts him wide open. And this match is getting hot, heated. Dreamer is, you know, pretty much holding himself back. And I think big guy from Raven's Flock was out there. Chokeslams Dreamer, or goes for one. Dreamer tosses him off the stage there through a couple of tables. I think it was Reese, if that was him in ECW. Or Big Dick Dudley, that's who it was. Big Dick Dudley returns here as well. So they definitely jam-packed this pay-per-view with returns and awesome matches that still hold up today. So Raven does push the line a bit too far, and Tommy Dreamer ends up running down, helping the Funker out. Moonsault gets the 3 count, and we got a new ECW World Heavyweight Champion, Terry Funk. That's so cool to say. So Terry Funk would be a 2-time ECW champion here, defeating Raven. This was a great moment, celebrating at the end with Dreamer and Funk. Real feel-good moment here. The ECW arena. Probably going to rate this pay-per-view about an 8 out of 10. Well worth watching, you know, for those last few moments there of the matches. My favorite matches were probably Sabu and Tazz, as well as the main event, or the 3-way dance into the main event. That really topped the pay-per-view off well, I feel. You know, Paul Heyman was great at building pay-per-views and booking shows, you know, on a equally, you know, front-loaded and bottom-loaded, you know, quality type. So, let me know your thoughts. If you haven't seen the pay-per-view, if you got WWE Network, definitely check it out. I'm sure you can find the DVD set on eBay fairly cheap. Let me know your thoughts, guys. And as always, we'll talk to you later. Peace.